Hi, and welcome to the C-Suite Edge podcast. I'm your host, John Light. I'm also the CEO and founder of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today I have Natalie Reeder with me, who is the Chief Operating Officer right at RepCard. Natalie, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I've got questions. We'll start there, but actually where we should start is share a little bit about Natalie Reeder and what's in RepCard and what has you where you are today with RepCard in the marketplace.
Sure. So, I've kind of been in this operations vicinity unofficially for a long time throughout my life, just through all the different types of jobs I've had. But I actually ended up with RepCard before RepCard. So I've worked with the founder for over 10 years
Uh-huh.
and just doing other work with him, back office, payroll for all of his door-to-door companies. And so he's a true entrepreneur at heart. And so he's like, hey, I got this idea. I want to get started. So he just kind of started slowly working on it. And then when it was ready to roll out, kind of brought me on as the first, employee to get it going. And so I've, over the past almost 8 years now, I've taken on all kinds of roles: customer support, sales, um, testing the
Uh-huh.
product, marketing, you name it. Other than coding, I don't do coding,
Well, now
but
everybody does coding, right? We just grab the nearest AI tool and go to town.
that's true. I've done actually more coding in the last 6 months than I ever previously did in the previous, 7 years. So,
Mhm.
but it's cool. So I've just kind of, almost stumbled into this, but really just discovered a industry that really features or plays to my strength of how my brain works, because my
Mhm.
brain really is that kind of operational brain. And so it's been cool to just roll into this kind of role and been able to grow and learn as
Mhm.
I've gone on.
Well, let's talk a little bit, because when you look at something like RepCard and you go check it on LinkedIn and on the web at repcard.com, it's a really interesting concept. One I hadn't really put a whole lot of thought into. And so I'm part of the reason for the podcast is I want to learn more. But why don't we start with talking about you sharing with us what's the biggest problem RepCard is designed to help people solve?
Yeah. So I think, well, what we've discovered is that we're really catered to, um, field sales, which is like, home services is a better way to say it. Home
Okay.
services. And we've really found that most of their businesses are unintentionally messy and inefficient
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. And so we've really focused on, okay, how can we make the rep that's out there representing them, how can we make their life easier, their job easier, which in turn turns around and really impacts the owners and their
Mm-hmm.
business. And so kind of working backwards that way, since the owner was in door-to-door sales for 12 years, he really knows that thought process, that mind. And so just thinking backwards that way of like, if I'm a rep, how does this impact me? And then going back to the owner. Okay, so now what are the tools the owner needs to
Mm-hmm.
really implement this for the rep? So it's that process.
Interesting. Okay. So then in terms of tools, what are we
Yeah.
talking about exactly?
So we've got, at our core, which we started with, is a digital business card.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do that on a rep level because it allows them to get their own reputation out there. So we let them get reviews, on themselves and also the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if by chance they don't last at that company, they can take their account and go take it with them to the next company. And then they've got some great reviews to start there as well. So we've also got canvassing, which is where they can, on a map, track where they've been, who they've talked to. We have a CRM. We have text and email campaigns for the owners to follow up with their leads and their customers. We have a
Mm-hmm.
calendaring system that they can, um, book appointments for the other people on their team. So
Mm-hmm.
we've tried to really think of like start to finish, what do they need to be successful?
So is it kind of like a home service direct sales CRM in a sense that you reverse engineered into?
Yep.
But I really like this feature. How do you take, if okay, so suppose your boss, okay, so he spent 12 years door to door sales, really, really B2C, interacting with people who may not want to interact with anybody at the moment. You just
Yeah.
interrupted dinner, you just interrupted whatever. The kids screaming, oh, we have flu A, B, C, D, and E, and we're going to get you sick too. Going to the door or getting attacked by someone's miniature schnauzer. That's probably not that much fun. Um, but they can take their reputational card, if you will, their digital
Hmm.
reputational card with them wherever they go. So if they went from solar company A to pest control company B to insurance company C, their reviews from a customer service perspective, trustworthy perspective, credibility, follow them.
Yes. Yep. That's that's like a big point of
Interesting.
it. And then the other part to it that I failed to mention, which is really kind of like the most unique part, is that
Mhm.
when you send that, I'm sending my digital business card to you, it's a unique link just to you. So if I'm talking to you, John, at your door and I
Mhm.
send it to you, anytime you open it or interact with it, you click on the button to go view my website, or I'm going to get notified of every single one of those. So that tells me, like, John, you're super interested in what I've got to offer.
Mhm.
And, maybe 6 months down the road, you click it again, I'll get notified. And then I might
Mhm.
call you and be like, hey, John, just checking in with you. How are
What
you
if you
doing? You're
what
like,
if you
oh
move to
my
a
gosh,
different
I was
company?
just looking at your card.
What if you move to a different company? Will
Even
that
if you move
follow
to a
you?
different company, it's okay. They can still click on it. It'll just show your new stuff.
Interesting. Oh, wow. Who pays for it, if I may ask?
So we actually offer a couple different options for that purpose. So we have
Mhm.
lots of companies that get it for their whole all of their reps,
Mhm.
and they do it that way. But we also have thousands of individuals who just do it on their own. So we intentionally offer both options, so that way you're
Interesting.
not limited. Yeah.
I've always back in the okay, dating myself here. I like to keep our content as evergreen as I can. So I don't always throw dates out, but I'm going to throw dates up. Way back in, I don't know, 2007 or 8, I joined LinkedIn.
Okay.
And when I joined LinkedIn, instead of just getting the free thing, I got the premium, but I paid for it out of pocket myself. I never had a company pay for it that I worked for over the years. And my reasoning behind it is that back then there was chatter about, well, if you've been expensing it, the company P card or writing an expense report or whatever, the company has a claim to not let you walk away with your connections and your history. How do you get around that? Now, I understand if the individual rep gets it,
Yeah.
that's theirs, good luck, getting that taken away. But what about when the company provides
So
those,
we
that
actually give
resource?
Yeah, so we give the company both options. When a rep is leaving, we
Hmm.
give them the option. They're always welcome to take their account with their reviews. That's never
That's never in play.
that's never in play. They always can have
Hmm.
their account with their reviews. It's just the contacts that
Got it.
they've gained. So ultimately, because the company paid for it, ultimately
Hmm.
they're really owned by the company, but they have that choice when they let them go, whether they
Hmm.
want to let them take them or not. And some do, some don't. So
Well, it's interesting, and I'm just, LinkedIn's the biggest one that comes to mind, but we could think, looking at Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But there's not space or somebody in this particular industry doing these direct sales to have all that information, all those potential reviews on a profile.
it's true it's one of the things, like one of the main biggest differences, because obviously we have competitors and we're
Hmm.
very similar in a lot of ways, but that's like one of our biggest differences by far.
Interesting. So a person could take this, it's got mapping or canvassing, so they can look at a neighborhood or a series of neighborhoods, know where they've been, but can it also help them then to determine who they want to talk to, who's novel, who's new?
It does, yes. So we provide homeowner data. So they're like little
Hmm.
pins on every house that they can tap on. So they could
Hmm.
tap on your house and be like, oh, this is owned by John Light. Here's his general credit score. He's been in the house for 20 years. He's
Huh.
however old. So we
Uh-huh.
do give them that data as well so they can kind of understand who
Wow.
they're going to the door to interact with.
Okay, well, now I know why all those solar guys keep showing up. It's like, "Hey,
That's
wait
true.
a second." Um, I am curious, okay, because this sounds pretty robust and useful, especially in this direct sales space. How do you take that forward into other industry spaces? Or have you guys looked at that from, "Okay, we've applied this very successfully here in this area. How can we expand that footprint?" Is that something on the roadmap? Is that something that you guys have done, or are you finding that it would need to be modified or adjusted too much to make that kind of a leap?
So we've done a little bit of expanding that. So we took this digital business card concept and we
Mhm.
actually decided to go into the event space, like event registration space.
Okay.
And so we actually have we've done over 100 events now. And
Mhm.
so we use that idea of this digital business card, and it gives them a QR code on their badge. And so you
Okay.
can scan each other's badges at the event, exchange information super simply, and
Interesting.
customize it. So we have gone that way. We've also we do not cater. We do have a wide range of
Mhm.
industries. We have like insurance agents, real estate agents, um, but we haven't really catered to them yet. So it's kind of like an untapped market that I think are going to start looking at more for next year because we still have so much on the roadmap this year
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
that, but definitely next year.
Well, you know what's interesting to me as we're talking, you know how your brain sometimes gets to churning,
Yeah.
and you're giving thought to, well, what if this and what if that? And one of my curiosities, one of my thoughts, I guess, that I'd be investigating in my head is this idea that we all have an online digital brand, even a persona in a sense, and for most professionals, you'd go to LinkedIn. I mean, a lot of people, there are other sites that are very specific, have certain niches that they're in, that are more robust within those segments. Um, but I like the concept from the idea that your rep follows you.
Yes.
And that can be such a hard thing because, as we all know, Yelp doesn't tell the whole story. Or
Yeah.
Glassdoor, a lot of times the people who comment the most on Glassdoor are the ones who are mad at you anyway.
Yep.
They're not gonna say anything positive. Even if you resolve a complaint or you resolve an issue or you make things right and then some, there's odds are they're not gonna go out there and say, "Oh, wow, this guy was great to work with. He's just this giant fluffy teddy bear, and he made everything right and even better." You won't ever see that or very rarely. So how do you deal with that in the context of that reputation following people?
Yeah, we actually part of what we allow them to do is they can turn on and off any review. So like visually you wouldn't see it. It does still
Mhm,
affect like their star rating, their
mhm,
score. Um but yeah, we let them control that a little bit. Um we do offer kind of like an internal thing if someone reaches out to us like, "Hey, this person's leaving me 8, 10, 12, just the same review over and over," we'll work with them on that, like, "Hey, we gotta leave 1 because maybe 1 is true, so
right,
we might remove the other ones for you."
mhm.
So we try and, um, offer just a little flexibility around that.
Yeah, I think that'd be important, for QC. I'm not afraid of criticism personally. Heaven knows I got 6 kids. I got enough criticism anyway. Um, but I don't like the idea that you see sometimes in a marketplace where people just shovel dirt at someone's rep, and sometimes people get really vindictive and they throw bots at it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you get all kinds of stuff. Um, that would be difficult to deal with because 'cause you're just one person,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and there's so much hyperbole out in the marketplace anyway. Uh,
Yeah.
that's just crazy. I don't know how many qualitative differences there are, but if you have a rep from State Farm in your neighborhood going door to door versus a rep from another State Farm agency going door to door. Ultimately,
Yeah.
they're pretty homogenized. They're selling the same thing. It's just about
Yeah.
who you connect with, really, and
Yep.
that sort of thing. Natalie, this is incredibly interesting to me because I'm very again, I'm a very big believer in your online reputation. From your personal brand, you need to protect it and nurture it. And this looks like it may be filling a gap or helping to fill a gap between really getting to know someone versus something that they can much more highly curate, like a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile or Instagram or X or whatever. So very interesting stuff. If somebody wanted to dive deeper on this, learn more about RepCard and how you all handle business and navigate some of these issues in the marketplace, what's the best way for them to find you guys and get in touch?
Our website is honestly repcard.com. You can go there. You can learn all about, all the different features we offer outside of the digital business card. If you want to dive in deeper, you can book a demo there.
Mhm.
Reach out to us. We're more than happy to just kind of show you everything we've got going on and really how it can help you in your business.
Awesome. Natalie Reeder, repcard.com. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.